Hello everyone, my name's Dan. You may know me as 1point5. I'm an electronic producer slash DJ who mainly based around kind of UK garage and deep dubstep kind of music. And I thought I'd make a little tutorial on how I kind of do drums in Logic, because a lot of people ask me about my drums, and there's a lot of tutorials for this kind of stuff on YouTube, but I thought I'd have a go at doing something that's kind of a bit more unique to my style. So, I've got a new project set up here. This is my template with my different buses set up, but I'll try not to use them too much. It's quite straightforward really, it's just kind of a bit of routing for my drums and basses and synths there, as you can see. We're at 137 BPM, but it's kind of irrelevant really. First things first, bass drum. Let's set up an ES2, because I love using synth bass drums. Now I have my own preset set up for kicks, but just to demonstrate, I'll start with a pure sine wave here. Let's grab my keyboard. Right, this is basically just a blank ES2 patch, which doesn't come with ES2, which is really annoying, but if you just get one of the more simple presets, just zero everything on here, and just using one oscillator on a sine wave, couldn't be much more simple. So making a bass drum's really easy, so I'll just program in a quick pattern on here, and the best octave for them is around C0 to C1, so around here or something. Just a simple pattern like that. I'll loop that, and then what we do is just pitch 1, which is the pitch of this oscillator. It's already set to envelope 2 there, and just give it a bit of a kick. And just tweak these values a bit until you have something that you like. I think I'm going to take analog off. Give the volume envelope a little bit of punch. Turn up the output volume a bit. A little bit of distortion maybe. And we have an approximation of some kind of synth kick drum there. Right. Well, I haven't planned this at all, so I'll just kind of play it by ear. What I normally do is add a layer to that, and I'd call that my sub kick, so let's do that now. And I'd add another layer. Alright, let's use an 808. So we'll go into the SX24, load the preset from factory, drums and percussion, electronic drum kits, Roland TR-808. Now there's a fantastic sample that comes in the 808. I'll just copy and paste that region over there, if I can find it. It is one of these G's somewhere, the next octave maybe. There you go. That just, it's kind of some kind of tambourine sample with a layered something. No idea what, I've never like touched an original 808, so but yeah, it just works amazing layered with a kick drum. I'll just edit the envelope a bit and play those two together. I'll give myself a bit more volume. Right. That's, for some reason that's sent to that bus, I've no idea why it's done that. What I'll do now is I'll send both of these to my kicks bus. Now this is just quite a simple bit of routing that I've got set up, where all my bass drums are going to my kicks bus. It's just got a little bit of low end rolled off, and then that goes into my main drum bus. It just kind of helps me keep everything organised. Now, even though I've already done that, I'm going to get this 808 and take out all the low end, just to keep it a bit cleaner. I'll leave that as it is for now. We'll go on to the next part. I'll tell you what, let's just duplicate the 808. If my mouse will work. Huh. There we go. And get rid of that. This time I'll send it to my perk bus, which is just short for percussion, which I use for any kind of drums basically that aren't kicks and snares and what have you. Solo that, make a new MIDI region. I just want to make something kind of interesting here. I'm not trying to go for like my main hi-hats or anything, just play around a little bit. Let's have a few offbeat hi-hats. And some syncopated percussion of some sort. What have we got for? Oh, it's a nice one. Oh, sorry about that. We've got something going on there. Just add a few more bits in. Yeah, let's have one of those. Something here. Right. Got a loop there now. It's really boring, and it is very recognisable 808 samples. So, easiest way to mess stuff up is to change the pitch of it. So, I'm just going to detune it in the XS24 here. Already it's starting to sound a bit more meaty. Tighten up the envelope a bit. And this is where the magic happens really. Because I generally make kind of UK garage influenced music. This is very important. Quantizing it to one of these swing templates, and E is quite a heavy one. I'm going to use it in this. It'll only affect the kind of anything that you put on, like beats, well, the every other 16th beat basically, and that's what gives it a wonderful shuffle, which you can hear straight away. Now, to me that still sounds a bit too dry, so I'm going to add a Space Designer reverb plugin, but we're not going to use it to add reverb. Right, I'll just pick one of these at random basically. Let's try Drum Booth 4. I don't think I've ever used that, but let's try it. Take all the dry signal out, and this is very important, just the volume envelope of the reverb. Bring that so it's super short, really tight, and that'll just completely transform your sound. It just sounds so much more organic now. Now, what's bugging me is this kind of ride cymbal at the end. It's ringing out a bit too long, so I'll just put that in the same sample as the other offbeat hats now. Play it with my bass drum. I'll bring it down in the mix a bit. And we're starting to get something we can use as drums. Right, next thing you want is some kind of snare or clap or something. So I'm going to set up another XS24. Probably keep it mono because snares you generally want to be right down the centre of your mix. And let's try the Roadhouse kit. It's got quite a few nice samples. I mean, all of these are pretty shoddy to be honest, but if you mess with samples, you can basically make most stuff sound interesting. I'm just looking for some snare samples in this then. Quite like that kind of rim shot sound. I'll just make a basic backbeat on 2 and 4 there. In fact, I'll leave that one as it is. Send that to another bus which I've got, which is for snares, just like how I did with my kick bus and my percussion bus. Just got a little bit of the bass rolled off. In fact, I'll bring that up a little bit more. And then that goes to bus 8, which is for my main drum mix. So if I solo this, that sounds a bit naff at the moment, so let's bring the envelope to be a bit tighter. Let's give it some distortion with the filter in the XS24. That's a bit sharper. Bring the pitch up maybe. Right, it's never going to work as a main snare, so I'm going to keep that as just a few high bits, so I'll just take out all the low end up to about 1k. Then give it some reverb. I'll use my short reverb bus, which is one of the things set up in my template. And it's just an auxiliary channel with Space Designer on the Boom Room preset. No dry signal, about halfway wet. And then I've got an EQ after it to take out most of the low ends and the extreme highs. And that just stops your mix getting too muddy, really. So that's, you can see how I'm dialing it in here with the send. Yeah, so we'll definitely need meatier snare as well. So I'll stay with the Roadhouse kit. Get rid of those things because it's just a duplicate channel. That must be a nice snare here somewhere. Yeah, let's try that. Bring the velocity up. Ah, there we go. In fact, I'll just stick that at the start for now. You'll see why in a minute. I'll just leave it as that. Right. What I'm going to do with that is bounce it. Rename that snare. So basically what I've got is that snare from the Roadhouse kit as an audio file, which you can see right there, the waveform. And now straight away I'm going to put it back into a sampler by hitting Control and E, which is a really useful shortcut. Now, this is a brand new sampler instrument, so it's just got that one sampler in. I'm just going to put that backbeat back in. And this just allows me to manipulate it a little bit more. So I'm going to open up the new sampler we've just made, go on Edit, and let's make 2 versions of this. And let's have one pitched down a bit, and maybe one a few semitones up. It already sounds a bit meatier. And I can once again add a tighten up the envelope with it there. And if I mix that in with the high one we did before, just get the balance right. Send that to the snare bus. We've got something a bit more interesting than what you would have with just the stock sample, so let's listen to what we've got so far. Right. I think this needs to come a bit tighter on the envelope. Because there's a bit too much of kind of the original studio sound from the original recording in that one. So yeah, we've got something there. Not the best drums I've ever made, but it's kind of demonstrating the techniques I use. We definitely need a lot more layers, so let's add another 808. So we've got 3 of them going now. And let's just try and do some driving hi-hats with this. Hang on, that's still pitched down. Just put that back to how it was. Yeah, let's use that. Oh. basic shuffly rhythm. Well, it'll be shuffly once I've quantized it. So once again, the 16E swing just works magic. See how it shifted all of those ones just off the grid. It just brings the whole thing to life. But that sounds horrible at the moment. So it calls for another little adjustment of this envelope, just to tighten it up a bit. Let's try bringing the pitch up a bit as well. Tell you what, I think that works quite well for these hi-hats, but these samples it's not really working with, so let's move that to a different position. Even just there. And what I like to do with these kind of hi-hat samples, whoops, is to just take out the extreme highs. They can be quite harsh. Right, once again, this is bussed off to my percussion bus, which we've already used for the other instance of the 808, which is just the low end rolled out really. Now this is the kind of time when you've been focusing on a new element of your track, and then you suddenly bring everything back in, things will start to jump out at you. Like, yeah, I've immediately noticed that my snare is very dark sounding. So let's do a sneaky little fix of that using an ES2. Go back to my sine wave setting, because that's kind of how I'd start everything. And we're going to use oscillator 3, because this one has the noise generator on it. So we've just got some horrible white noise. I can just copy and paste the snare from my other snare into this, solo it, and we've got a little burst of white noise, which sounds horrible, but bear with me. Put a little envelope on that. Immediately starts to sound like a old-fashioned synth kind of snare. But as we're just kind of using it as a utility to add to our other drums, I'm going to cut out most of the frequencies that are happening here. So I'm just going to band pass it, so we've just got kind of this going on, and maybe a cheeky little boost. Let's see how that works with the other snares. Yeah, it adds a whole lot of high end that kind of just makes it sound like it'll fit a lot better. Right, the next thing that's jumping out at me is their bass drum is a bit too kind of dull as well. So if I can remember how I did this the first time, because I've got I'm going to make a layer for the bass drum by duplicating my sub kick there, copy it in over, solo that, so that's what it sounds like. Now I've done this before and then saved it as a preset, which I haven't changed in ages, but I use it a lot. Instead of a sine wave, we're going to change this to a square wave, which suddenly sounds like some out of a hardcore techno tune. But then if we use filter 1 in the ES2, set it to high pass, takes at the low frequencies and just going to mess with these, with the pitch of the oscillator and how the envelope is affecting it. Now it sounds nothing like a bass drum, but it should hopefully add a little bit of a click to it. If I take out all the low end, even though I'm already doing it with the high pass and the S2, but this is just kind of an extra measure. I'm going to tighten up the envelope for the volume. Now, as soon as I mix that back in, I can hear there's a bit too much high end, so let's cut that out. Now, it doesn't really sound like a proper kick drum. It's actually not as good as my other preset which I made, which I can't remember how I did. But I have a feeling that'll work in the full mix. It'll just add something to it, so I'll just play it without it first and bring it back in. Sorry. Well, I can't hear it at all now, it's too quiet. There we go. It's quite subtle actually in this instance, but it's adding a bit of kind of a bit more aggressiveness to that bass drum. Now I'm feeling I need to edit some of these hi-hats. This is the ones we pitched up before. Right, hang on. I'll tell you what, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to take this one, make it even snappier. So we've just got the very start of each sample. And to make up for the kind of sound we've lost in our loop, and go back to our first percussion loop and give it some reverb with that same reverb bus. Just kind of bring it to life a bit. And from now it's just kind of a case of balancing it, which I can hear is quite out. I'm going to add some reverb to my snares as well. Right, now there's definitely still a lot missing. So, what should we add in next? Let's go for... I want to keep this simple, so let's make another Roadhouse kit. And I'll use this to make some more percussion. Right. Oh yeah, see, let's use some of these hand drums, yeah. So really basic little pattern there. I'm going to click this button here to edit the velocities of this, because that'll be a bit easier than doing it with the tool. And this is quite important if you don't want it to sound like too much of a robot. Let's copy that over, select it all, and then quantize it with the swing. A few more bits in maybe. See how that sounds. Right, not sure about the moment, so we'll play the rest of the mix and gradually bring that in. Now I'll do this a lot, but I'm going to bring down the envelope a bit. Okay. and add some to those bits of percussion we just made. I'm going to do one last thing here, which is just going to make the whole thing sound a bit less disjointed and just bring everything together. So let's load up a new AXS24. This is kind of a cliched sound, but you can't really go far wrong with it. Let's load up a 909 kit this time. And there's a specific sample I'm looking for, which is very kind of, well, it's very 909 sounding, really. There it is. It's that hi-hat. I'm just going to put one of those on every offbeat. It's kind of instant techno there, but obviously this isn't going to be a techno tune. I'll just solo that little loop. And play with the envelope again. I don't really like that being over to the right, so I'm going to make that minor. And to make it a bit less cliched of a sound, let's change the pitch a bit. And send it to our percussion bus, which I think I'm going to take out a bit more of the low end from. Well, there you go. It's that's just a little taster of how I would approach making drums. I haven't used any external samples, which I would normally be using my own recordings and various things I've sampled from weird places, but I thought I'd just do it with Logic stock samples just to demonstrate how I'd go about putting something together. There would be a lot more mixing that kind of goes into this normally if I was making it into a tune. Like, I would do some bus compression and things, but kind of the purpose of this video is just to show my creative approach, and I hope it's been helpful in some way. Yeah, not the best drum loop I've ever made, but it's not bad considering I didn't plan this at all. So yeah, yeah, I hope that helps some people, and I'll see you later.